Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Fiserv. It is time for an update, and on this chart we have been tracking the idea of a larger wave 1 that has formed to the upside. Now we have been tracking the wave 1 as having a top here. It is possible to consider the top here as well, by the way. But then the main idea is we are tracking a large wave 3 that could be unfolding in this area, and we could have within it a 1-2-1-2 setup that has completed, followed by an internal wave 3, which at this point is pretty much confirmed that is complete. Yeah, in the previous video we were tracking a possible extension within this wave 3 to the upside, where we were having this yellow scenario as a likely outcome. Yeah, it wasn't actually a too bad of a setup, especially since we had the opportunity to enter very low, to the very low and very close to the last level of support, which was a good indication that, yeah, since we wouldn't hold this level, the 61.8% retracement, we would have been tracking a larger correction here within the larger structure in the wave 4 in white. And in the previous video I did provide you both areas of support. I did highlight that, yeah, this was honestly this 3-4-5 pattern that we were tracking here in the yellow interpretation was a pretty good setup in my opinion. It just didn't hold. They don't always do, but once we failed to hold the 61.8% retracement, we did have a pretty good indication that we were going into the larger correction in the wave 4, as mentioned in the previous video, for which we do still have the area of support between the $116 level all the way down to the $52 level. Now, since we didn't manage to get an extension within this wave 3, I have to fully assume that we followed through in the white scenario where we had an ABC pattern in this wave 4 correction, instead of having a wave 4 bottom as marked here in yellow and building a larger ending diagonal. So we can now even remove this interpretation from the chart and focus on the white scenario completely. Now, within this area of support, we do still have room for further extensions to the downside, but if I may add, I believe it is quite possible that we do have a bottom already. It is not confirmed. I do need an initial larger 5-wave structure to have a first level, a first signal that we may have bottomed, but at this point we are trending around the 38.2% retracement, and we did hit the structural levels of support that we had here in this area. Yeah, very relevant. Unfortunately, if we manage to push lower, we don't really have other significant structural support areas, so we will have to rely mostly on this general area of Fibonacci levels to track a bottom that could be forming deeper within this wave 4. Now, since this is a wave 4 within an impulse, we could be looking at various outcomes within which it could develop. Yeah, it could develop as something like an ABC pattern. It could develop as a WXY pattern, which is probably my preferred interpretation at the moment. And then it could even unfold as a larger triangle, yeah, to the sideways before it completes the next follow-up to the upside in the wave 5 to new all-time highs. Now, on this chart, before we get into the specifics for the correction, I wanted to point out the risk from a large time frame perspective that this could be a larger A wave that could have even topped here, okay? Then we might have had here a B wave correction, and we could be really in a C wave to the upside. Now, even within this wave C, even within this more bearish interpretation, I would still like to get an additional high to get a full clear structure in 5 waves within here this wave C that would develop, and I would be looking for an ideal target for such a wave C at the 100% extension of the wave A, which is the $425 level, yeah, around that area. And yeah, the idea is, even within a more bearish interpretation of this chart, I am still tracking at least one more high, whereas if we really follow the count that we have here on this chart, I would expect another 4-5 pattern to only complete the larger wave 3 to the upside. Now, internally, as I was mentioning, we are going into the smaller time frame to track what structures we could really follow to the downside, and yeah, basically in the correction in this wave 4. And in the previous video, I believe I provided you this as well, this area of resistance for a possible continuation in something like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 and then was looking for a 4-5 and 4-5 to have a complete 5-wave structure to the downside. Now, the way this unfolded, it could be in multiple ways, because largely this correction could really still be an ABC pattern, within which in the wave C we do expect to have a 5-wave move to the downside. And in that case, I do need to add, it is very possible that we may get another larger push to the downside within a 5th wave, where I could consider this a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th, and then possibly a wave 2 here, a 3rd wave down, and then I would be looking for a 4th and a 5th to follow through. Now, the thing with this is that I don't know if we actually managed to reach the ideal target for a wave 3, but yeah, we clearly did. We got nearly to 161.8% retracement. And in that case, I do want to point out that the main area of resistance that I am watching out for at this point, and I will be using the yellow interpretation for this idea of an ABC pattern that would extend further down, but the main area of resistance for a correction here in a wave 4 is between the $78 level all the way up to the $92.8 level, where if we manage to break above the 50% retracement would be a pretty valuable signal that yet we may have bottomed. Now, another valuable signal would be forming an initial 5-wave structure to the upside. That would be actually a very great one, because it would provide us with the opportunity to enter in a follow-up wave 2 correction and look for a follow-up wave 3 to the upside. Now, other ways that this correction, this structure within the wave 4 could unfold would be either that we had already a completion, and that I will be tracking that under the white interpretation in WXY pattern to the downside. And another interpretation that I could consider is that this wave 4 could still unfold to the sideways as a triangle. Now, we won't focus on that interpretation too much at this point. I would be expecting a larger retracement to the upside in that case, in something like an ABC pattern. Could be a WXY, that doesn't really matter. But the main focus for me right now is the area of resistance that we have here in yellow, and I will be watching closely for a potential smaller time frame initial 5-wave structure to the upside. Now, we have just formed this low, so we do need to give it some time to form a larger and more reliable and clear structure. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.